Charlie Castro. I'm the Director of Marketing with REO Reseller. With us today is the President of REO Reseller, Greg Mooney. Greg, say hello.
Hey everybody, thanks for coming out today. Appreciate you taking the time.
We're going to do two parts of a webinar. I'm going to do just some information about the industry, kind of what's going on, give you some statistics about what's going on in the real estate market today. And then Greg's going to take us through the real reason you're here, which is to talk about a joint venture opportunity he's made available to his clients. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. We were going to take questions at the end of today's webinar. If you have questions, if you look to the right of your screen, you've got a little dashboard screen type thingy there. If you look down towards the bottom of that, it says questions, and you just click on that. You can just type your questions in. We'll answer questions electronically at the conclusion of today's webinar. So again, I want to thank everybody for being here. This is just Case Shiller one-year price gains through March of 2013. This is from March of 2012 to March of 2013. You can see, we had three areas, Phoenix, San Francisco, and Las Vegas, and saw better than 20% bounce in the market. Atlanta, 19.1, Detroit up 18.6. Our chosen market is Birmingham, Alabama. We're going to talk about Birmingham here in a few slides. Birmingham rose 17.1%. LA Orange County, 16.6% increase. Greg and I both live in Southern California. I live in Orange County. Orange County is now considered to be the most overinflated real estate market in the entire nation. And yet people are still doing flips here and still investing in buying into investment real estate. This is out of the Orange County Register back in June. Just says, yep, home prices are up double-digit rates, big deal. They're still way below the previous peak, and that's what we believe. We believe that the market has changed. We're going to talk about the market, how we believe the market has changed, and what we're doing to sort of change it. But we still believe there's great value out there. We still have large investors in this market that are buying inventory. For that very same reason. The prices may be going up, but they're still way below where they were. Yeah, we knew we were going to see this eventually. Interest rates did begin to rise in June. Actually, we saw the largest one-week increase in 2 years, 0.53 percentage points. That was according to Freddie Mac. So we did see a little bit of a bump. Does that mean anything? I don't know, 4.46 interest rates for a 30-year fix. That's still a pretty doggone good rate. I still remember buying my first house at an 18% interest rate. So 4% not only is going to have a big impact in the market. As a matter of fact, Fannie Mae came out right after that and just said it's going to have virtually no impact on home prices. So the interest rate did go up, but it looks to have very little, if any, effect at all on housing prices. This is out of CNN Money just back in July, just talking about how the long national foreclosure nightmare is nearing its end. Foreclosure filings hit the lowest level since before the housing bust in June. So in June, we saw a total of 127,000 in June. That's a 35% decrease in foreclosure filings, notices of default, scheduled auctions, and bank repossession. So down 35% over the past 12 months. So we're starting to see a clear end in sight to the housing market kind of crumbling. We're seeing prices come back in most major areas. Matter of fact, National Association of Realtors predicted there will be no market that will see a decrease in housing prices in 2013. If you're wondering where it bounced the highest and bounced the lowest, these are the strongest recovery areas. Rochester, New York being number one, also considered to be the number one cash flow market in the country. Birmingham, again, our chosen market, up a solid 58% from the time the bubble burst. We see a couple cities there in California, San Jose and San Francisco, saw some pretty significant bounces. Flint, Michigan had a nice bounce too, but Flint was not only affected by the housing market, it was also affected by the automobile industry. Sort of happened at the same time. So that area was just crushed, but it's made a very solid bounce of 64%. So where has it seen the weakest bounce? Salem, Oregon, Pensacola, Florida, Visalia, two more cities in California, Visalia and Fresno. Interestingly, not too far away from San Jose and San Francisco, but both those areas have seen very little bounce. Interestingly, Colorado Springs, that surprises me a little bit. Allentown, Pennsylvania, and Baltimore sort of rounds out the bottom 10 in terms of where we saw the biggest bounces at. And a lot of this has to do with, we've been talking about this now for almost a year. It was about a year ago this time that REO Reseller realized and recognized the fact that hedge funds, institutional investors were in the market. They were here to stay. We believe that all started back when Jimmy Buffett. There's a faux pas. Warren Buffett was interviewed on CNBC, and they asked him the question, is investing in housing a solid strategy? And he went on to talk about how he would buy millions of single-family homes if it were practical, but that he wasn't very handy, and that sort of frames what REO Reseller is going to be talking about today. You know, I think most investors recognize that investing in real estate is a sound strategy. The question is, who do you do it with? How do you do it? You know, who do you rely upon as a partner? Do you do it yourself? Do you have the ability to go out and buy, renovate, rent, and flip yourself? Do you have that skill set? Do you have that amount of time? So the question really is, how do you do it? Well, Warren Buffett, he solved his problem this way. He didn't just say it was a good idea. He then went and he bought Prudential Real Estate, so he's now got a fairly large real estate company in his portfolio of investments. But we still have seen, I believe the last count was like 47 hedge funds in the United States were buying foreclosed single-family residences as an investment. And that, we believe, has a lot to do with the recovery and the bounce in the market. If you don't know, Blackstone is the largest owner of single-family homes in the United States. Jonathan Gray, their CEO, was asked the question, and that is, are you done buying yet? The answer is nope, not yet. There's still too good of a value in this market, so we're still seeing the hedge funds, the real estate investment trusts, those sort of institutional buyers are still to have a tremendous thirst for single-family residences as an investment. The Chinese investors are here. They got into the market, we believe, about 6-7 months ago. They invested $500 million into Blackstone. By the way, I didn't mention the statistic for total investment dollars in 2013 projected to be $9 billion by the institutional Wall Street investors looking to build a portfolio of a variety of different investments, but $9 billion committed to the foreclosed housing market by the institutional investors in 2013. Pretty interesting. Interestingly, CNBC, and I'm going to go through some more slides here in a little bit when we talk about Birmingham, but interestingly, CNBC, the fastest way to triple your money is housing. Prices are up 12% from a year ago. The market is recovering, and the strategy is suddenly changing, and that's what we're going to be talking about today. I'm going to turn it over to Greg now, and I'll come back in a little bit to talk about Birmingham and just a prelude to the joint venture model and how we see the market, how we see taking advantage of available inventory. The market has clearly changed. Interestingly, REO Reseller over the course of its history, and Greg can speak to this, was periods when they were strictly a buy and flip model, 12 months, 18 months, 24 months was sort of the buy and flip version. And there's been times where we've said, no, it's a buy and hold market. It's time to buy and just sit and see what happens. We see the market has changed. We think we've done the right things. I should say Greg has done the right things to make changes to it and make something available that might make a whole lot of sense to you. So with that, I'll turn it over to Greg. And Greg, thanks again for being here.
All right. Thanks for that, Charlie. I just want to give you a little background on me before we get started. I was a financial advisor for over 18 years, trained over 1,700 reps, and I kind of designed REO Reseller, kind of reverse engineered it. And what I was looking for or trying to create was an environment where whether you're very experienced or a novice could, be on the right side of the foreclosure boom. But I designed it with getting, designing it so that the client, the ultimate consumer, would have the lowest risk with the greatest amount of return. As we all know, you can go park your money at a bank and get a guaranteed, CD paying 1% a year. You take, inflation into consideration, you're probably going backwards. And then there's a lot of people who have done very good and very bad in the stock market. And we could talk about gold on and on and on. But basically, I designed it to have the highest return with the least amount of risk, okay? We've been in business actually since 2007, incorporated in 2008. We're a little bit ahead of our time. It was a while before we actually really got, a traction. But obviously, in the last recent years, things have gone quite well. And I think you're really going to appreciate what we're going to talk about as far as the joint venture. Basically, we are a one-stop shop for investors who want to take advantage of the foreclosure market, but not needing to be experts in real estate or directly have to manage it or that thing. But the more that you find out about REO Reseller, if you are an expert, the more that you'll appreciate what we do. Okay, I'm going to go over just some basics. It sounds like no big deal on paper, but I'm going to emphasize a few things on this page. First of all, we definitely researched the area. Um, our crews literally look at least 100 properties, and we only land up with about 5. We have a very select criteria of exactly what exactly we're looking for. Obviously, we target neighborhoods where the rental values are high. You're going to find that out. Birmingham is, actually, Charlie's going to go back through that slide, but is the third best cash flowing market in the United States. Here's what I really want to emphasize. Yeah, we buy REOs, foreclosures, private sales, Freddie Mae, Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac. Sorry, I got my tongue tied today. But what I want to emphasize is we don't buy lists or tapes or any of this stuff that many of you may have tried to work through. We personally, I've got a person in charge, 5 people in acquisitions, 3 ground crews, et cetera, and they all perform, and of course, property management. And what I want to emphasize here is every one of these homes, first of all, REO reseller buys it before we do anything with it, okay? So obviously we go through a lot of scrutiny with the home. They're all inspected. They've all been gone through. We know exactly within literally just a few dollars what they're going to rent for and what they're currently worth. So again, I just want to emphasize we have people on the ground. This is not a buy unseen type situation. You're going to know exactly what we're talking about, the values of the home, what they're going to rent for, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, when we say we buy based on the yield and not on the comp, this is starting to change. It used to be you couldn't get a comp on a house. I mean, it was just totally impossible. You would have a tear down shack, for $10,000, and next door to you'd have a house that they still thought was worth $95,000. In the course of the last few years that we've been in Birmingham, you are able to get a better idea of what the comp is, but there's still situations where certain streets just won't comp out. But what we do is we base on the yield. Okay, what we're looking for is an end user who's going to buy a house, who wants a long-term buy and hold, and wants to earn somewhere between 10 and 14% on their money. Okay, and obviously we provide a fully managed system, and what we're here for today. This actually doesn't apply because obviously we're going to be talking about no tenants, no toilets, no trouble. Okay, this slide is especially very, very important. Our sales team, we get phone calls constantly. I live in California. I want to buy a house in California or Nevada or Arizona. It's always one of the 3, okay? I'm going to show you why we have our chosen market, and the math is really, really simple, okay? If you buy a property for about $500,000 in California, Nevada, or Arizona, they're going to pay an average rent of $2,200 a month, and that actually might be a little high for Nevada. By the time you take off the taxes, the insurance, the management costs, you're not left with much. You might be lucky to get a 5, maybe a 6% return on your money, versus in our chosen market, which is Birmingham, Alabama, you can buy 10 properties for $50,000 a piece with an average rent of over $7,000. By the way, our average home rents for $735 a month. Okay, by the time you pay the property taxes, insurance, and all that, you're talking about $5,000 a month plus or minus a few hundred in actual cash flow. So the bottom line is the numbers just make a whole lot of sense. Charlie alluded to the fact that Orange County right now is the most overpriced county in the United States. Okay, and the bottom line is obviously there's more cash flow and you have more diversity in your portfolio. Charlie, why don't you take it from here?
Yeah, as I mentioned earlier, Birmingham, Alabama is the chosen market of REO reseller. Lots of information about Birmingham, Alabama, and I'm just going to go through just a couple quick slides here. Lots of people don't realize what the type of an area this is. It's actually the 9th largest city in the United States. CNN calls it the 10th best overall real estate market in the country. Also the 3rd fastest growing real estate market in the nation. A New Wire investor, which is something we follow fairly closely to the study, said that the top 10 best cash flow markets in the country, that Alabama was 3rd. I mentioned earlier it's Rochester, New York's number 1, if you're curious. And a lot of that's got to do with the revitalization and economic development downtown. I was actually just reading an article just this morning, actually, in this week's Time magazine. You know, it's the 50th year anniversary of sort of the beginning of the civil rights movement. And that all started at a little church in Birmingham in 1963. And it was talking about how the city's evolved. And the mayor there was talking about how, you know, these days we talk more about investing in the University of Birmingham's Medical Research Center than we talk about race. It's really very interesting, and I didn't know this, Greg. I just learned this today. Mercedes-Benz has put a plant into Birmingham, and so has Honda put a construction plant into Birmingham. What you're looking at here is 2 photographs just to the right. That is now completed. It's a state-of-the-art minor league baseball facility. Has the Birmingham Barons, the baseball team there in Birmingham. That's now a state-of-the-art minor league stadium right downtown. But it's not just the downtown area that's been revitalized. It's really the entire city, whether it be the parks, the schools, the grounds. It's just very interesting what they've been doing in Birmingham. Interesting, this is a very interesting statistic. Birmingham, 2nd in the nation for building personal net worth. So basically disposable income. That's based on local salary rates, living expenses, and unemployment rates. The rental market there is extremely strong. Today, Birmingham ranks as one of the most important business centers in the Southeast. I mentioned about the revitalization, $1 billion to revitalize downtown, making it into a 24-hour mixed-use entertainment district. Very interesting. The Birmingham Better Business Bureau came out, I believe it was in May, June, and said that there was more investment dollars in Birmingham in 2012 than any time in their history. And then, of course, I mentioned earlier, a lot of that has to do with the economy, is to do with the biotechnology and medical research center at the University of Alabama at Birmingham. Birmingham was known generally over history for 2 things, the civil rights movement and the being a steel town. And now it's transformed more into more of a white-collar area than a blue-collar area. I took this off the New York Times back in June. This is actually an AP story that the New York Times picked up. It's just a guy talking about, you know, I went down to Birmingham and couldn't believe what I saw down there, and that's what the article's all about. If anybody would like to have a copy of the entire article, I'll be glad to get a copy of it for you. I've got the link here. But, you know, it talks about, you know, Zagat having highly rated restaurants, bars, nightclubs, the whole entertainment area downtown has been totally revitalized. The economy there is extremely strong. This is just some statistics about the real estate market. These green lines represent housing prices. The red line indicates inventory, and that's going to lead us into what we're going to talk about today. You can see the market sort of peaks out 2006 and 2007, then we have the bubble in 2008, and then you see the gradual decline of pricing, and it goes all the way down to 2011. From 11 to 12, we saw a 17% jump. As we talked about earlier, one of the earlier slides, from March to March, we saw 17% from 2012 to 2013. It continues to go up. But look at the inventory. The inventory level obviously peaks to where you'd expect it to peak in 2008, and then just gradually begins to decline to where you see now the inventory levels are decreasing. Now, Greg's going to talk about the JV agreement here in just a couple slides, but I highlight that for a very specific purpose. There's inventory that's available. There's still opportunity there to capitalize. These numbers are going to continue to go the exact same direction that they're going. Inventory levels will continue to go down. Prices will continue to go up. And that's the reason why Greg has come up with something that I think you're going to appreciate. The fastest way to triple your money is housing, and house flipping has all of a sudden become popular, up 19% from a year ago, 74% from the first half of 2011. That's from RealtyTrack. All of a sudden, you're seeing the flipping model come back. The advertising that Greg sent out for this webinar, he said, no tenants, no toilets, no trouble. What they was essentially saying was, you just get in and you get out. There's buyers, there's institutional buyers, there's retail investment buyers. It's a perfect opportunity to just get in and get out. This was from DataQuick. They analyze real estate trends. Flipping is up in some parts of Southern California as much as 45% over last year, and that's in a market that most everyone who's in that market recognizes that it's sitting on a potential bubble, that there's just the appreciation here just is not there, but yet even in California you can find great values. And then again, both economists and investors agree that as long as mortgage rates stay low and the economy keeps growing, this housing recovery is going to continue. I think that's pretty much a universal opinion at this point. Mortgage News Daily, buying a flip as long as it's a good one, and this is what Greg's going to talk about in when we get to his part of the webinar. But this is important. They tend to be smaller homes in an area that the listing sheet highlights the fact that they need new carpet, appliances, and or fresh paint. You don't want to get into something, and that's what Greg's going to talk about. You don't want to get into something you need to rebuild walls, do all those sorts of things. You want to be able to get into a smaller home, do some minor remodels, some minor renovations, and then flip it quickly. And that's what Greg's going to be talking about. I took this off of the AP just last week, and I highlighted something in red here. It's very important, I think. U.S. home prices jumped 12% in July from a year earlier. Yep, we know that's a pretty consistent number that everybody's reporting. And it reflects a housing market that's increasingly favoring sellers amid a tight supply of available homes for sale. It's the sellers this market now favors. Now, obviously, to do a flip, you got to first be a buyer to be a seller, but you make your profit by being a seller. And we believe that the AP story is absolutely right in the money, and that's the reason why you were invited on this call today. So what I'm going to do, Greg's going to take it from here and talk about the JV program. We're going to scroll through just a couple of homes. These are just examples that Greg came up with. These are just some REO reseller homes. Just want to give everybody an example of what type of a piece of property we're talking about. I know people, especially from the two coasts, the East Coast and the West Coast, you say, $39,000 or $37,000. What does that buy you? Well, this is going to give you an idea of what that actually buys after it's done being rehabbed, and what kind of properties that Greg is talking about, buying and then immediately flipping to an investor or to a retail buyer. So Greg, I'll turn it over to you.
Yeah, I just randomly picked these just to give you an idea. Like Charlie said, we're on the West Coast, and we also talked to a lot of people on the East Coast, and they have a hard time getting their mind around, well, hey, what am I really buying here? That sounds too good to be true. These are, family neighborhoods. You can see the homes. They're nice little places. Okay, you want to stop on that one. This is just a recent example, to just kind of, get your mind around what we do. Okay, this particular home, you're looking at before rehabs. There's nothing huge, nothing major here. Obviously, the pink blues, pink, green, yellow, the nasty carpet, et cetera, didn't have to do a real lot to this house, but what we did was really important. This particular house, this slide is a little old. We actually rented it. We were projecting $750. We try to be conservative. It actually rented for $781. You take out the taxes, the insurance, management fees. You can see the net monthly ROI. This is not what we're going to talk about today, but this is the end user. This is what they're looking for. Okay, and then you can go to the next slide. This is the after rehab. I want you to really take notice on the floors. We've got this down to pretty much a science. Those floors are high-grade linoleum. We don't even put carpet in homes anymore. A lot of the homes have hardwood floors. If we can refinish them, we'll put a thick polyurethane. But if we got to yank floors or replace carpeting, we actually use a high-quality laminate. Just for, move in, move out, low maintenance, that type of thing. You can see we redid the kitchen. It's real nice. There's some issues with the back deck, air conditioning unit, of course, on and on and on. But you can say this is the end product that REO resells to institutional buyers, retail customers, et cetera, et cetera. Oh, no, go ahead and go back. This was actually something that came out on last Thursday's webinar. It's a little premature because we don't know what we're talking about yet. Actually, Charlie, I'm sorry. Let's go back to that after we go through the other slides. We should have had that at the end. All right, this is the invitation that you received by email. I do want to thank, we did 10 of these. We call them our round one investors. I think we have a few on the phone right now, but I want to say thank you up front. Now we're doing something, and we're just calling it round two, second chance. There was 10 opportunities. I think that we're down to 5 or 6. We had a very strong turnout last Thursday. But we're going to show you how to, earn between 36 and 60% on your money every year without having to deal with tenants, toilets, and troubles. And I want to mention that I came up with the thought of this based upon a lot of what Charlie says, but I realize that there's a lot of people out there who want to get involved in foreclosures, but they don't want to become tenants. The interesting thing is, though, we have tons of people who do want to buy a long-term buy and hold for a lot of different reasons. And the only reason we're offering this is really simple. If you've ever tried to get a loan for less than $100,000, it's hard. If you try to get a loan for less than $50,000, I'm not kidding, it is almost impossible. On what we're talking about today, no exaggeration, $5,000, $6,000 in fees. So what I thought to myself, we want to capitalize this market, do as many homes as we possibly can, and this is our solution, which is a great solution for you. You can go ahead and go to the next slide. Okay, I want to keep this really, really super simple, but we're talking about an investment of $37,500. That's going to get a single family home rehabbed and rented. It includes any closing costs, the rehab costs, it includes everything. Okay. We sell these homes all day long for $50,000 plus. So I'm going to just show you an example at a minimum, which would be $49,900. We're just saying $50,000. Keep the math simple. Okay, so we will resell this home to a retail buyer for $50,000. There's going to be about $4,000 in commissions and fees and about $1,000 in closing costs. So you're left with about $45,000 in gross proceeds. We're estimating a 90-day period of time. It can be less. It's never been more, but it could go 120 days. But we're estimating, just as a good example, 90 days. We're very comfortable with this. We're looking at minor expenses, $180 for taxes, $150 for insurance, $108 for an alarm. By the way, we put alarms in everything, and I know there's a lot of people on here that get sick of me saying this, but I don't care if you're in Beverly Hills or Birmingham or anywhere, there are professional teams. I'm talking with nice equipment that go in the middle of the night and it will rip out copper, plumbing, light fixtures, appliances, anything that they possibly get their hands on. So we always put an alarm on it during the rehab process. And then to make an additional incentive for the end user, we also put on a home warranty, which is by American Home Warranty, which is only $400. So you're looking at a little over $800, between $800 and $900 during that 3-month period in expenses. All right, so that leaves you with a little over $44,000. Initial investment, $37,500. There's basically, and I apologize for the number, 66, 62 in profit. And the way that it works and what we're proposing is that we share that 50-50. Okay, so 33.31 to you, 33.31 to REO reseller. Doesn't sound like a lot of money, but you're only looking at an investment of 37.5. That's a 9% return on investment. And this is on the low side. We're going to show you what we believe average would be based on past results. You can go to the next slide. And obviously, if you do that 4 times a year, which we feel comfortable, in some cases we may only be able to do it 3. In some cases, it's possible to do 5. So there are certain things that we can't predict. Before it's comfortable, well then look at the profit. It's 13 grand. Well, 13,000 plus on 37.5 as an investment. That's a 36% annual return. That's incredible, And this is not having to deal with landlord, being a landlord or like I always say, the tenants, the toilets, the troubles. You can go to the next one. All right. Now, I just based that $50,000. That's our minimum. That's based upon a little bit lower in rent. Our average home rents for $735 a month. Yeah, sometimes they're higher. They're never less than 7, but you know, 735 is the average. So if we take this 735, see the end consumer, the person that wants to buy this home, they want to buy it and they want to get about an 8 to 10% return on their money. Well, if we do the math on a $55,000 sale, $735 a month, they're actually getting almost 12% return on their money. So they're really happy. And that's a very attractive offer. So at $55,000, again, minus $4,400 in commissions and fees, about $1,000 in closing costs, you're left with a little over $49,000, actually almost $50,000, so $49,600. Take out the same expenses as it was before. They're all within a couple dollars of themselves. We'll do the math now. So now you're looking at $48,700 minus $37,500. You're looking at over 11 grand in profit. There's $5,600 for you, $5,600 for REO reseller. Do the math on that. That's pretty extreme. That's a 60%. I'm sorry, go to the next slide. Sorry, getting ahead of myself. Get excited when I see this. Do to 4 times a year. If you're looking at over $20,000, it's 60% annual rate of return. What I'm trying to emphasize here is somewhere between 36 on the low. I like 60. You know, I tend to like to, you know, under promise, over deliver. Certainly don't be looking for more, but it is possible. But somewhere between 36 and 60% on your money without having to deal with any of this is just a great return on investment for you, and it helps REO resell at the same time in being able to acquire as many homes as possible. All right, Charlie, if you can go back up to, I just want to give you an example. Sometimes we have something a little extraordinary that happens. This particular house literally, I think it became available last Thursday morning. So at the last minute, we decided to go ahead and just put it as 2 extra slides on the webinar. But this was a home. It's a big footprint. You know, typically the houses are about, you know, 11, 12, 1,300 square foot. This one's 1,800. It's also a 4-bedroom, 2-bath. House is in pretty good shape. Doesn't need a lot of rehab. Needs, you know, some cosmetics, but fundamentally really good sound house. You can see the kitchen. Yeah, the ceiling needs some repair. But the bottom line is we offered this. You can go to the next slide. We offered this. This house is definitely going to rent for at least $800. So based on just $800, we should have no problem whatsoever reselling this house for $59,900. So what we did was we offered it. It was at a higher price because obviously it costs more, but we offered it at a $42,500 JV with the intentions of selling it for $60 or more. I want to be careful here. We have a very, very interested buyer, but she also knows that it's first come, first serve. So if any of you are interested in this, please call us after the webinar. These do not come up very, very often. And with that, that's pretty much it. Charlie, if you want to take it from here.
Yeah, we're going to go ahead and take questions now, too, while I'm getting back to the last slide. I'll put all of our contact information up there. Just to qualify what Greg just said, that home at 42.5 is a JV agreement. That's a buy and flip. The intent on that property there is to rehab it, flip it quick. If you notice at the bottom of that last slide that we had, it's selling it at a $59,900 price tag. That's still a 12% return, and that's what the institutional investor looks like. So flipping that property there, I would imagine that would be happening in a very short period of time. But also, as Greg did say, we had a lady on our webinar last Thursday who called us right after the webinar and said she wanted to buy it. She's reviewing the paperwork. She's in first position for it, but if anybody is interested and want to be in second position, then let one of us know. I'll leave our contact information up here for you. If you want to ask questions now, again, look on your dashboard to the right. See a little button there that says questions. Just type in your questions into the queue, and we'll be glad to take your questions. While you're doing that, we always get asked this question. Yes, we did video record this webinar. If you want a copy of it, It'll be on YouTube sometime late tonight, first thing tomorrow. Typically it takes several hours to upload the webinar into YouTube. So if you want a copy of that, we'll send it to you. And if you want a copy of the paperwork on this JV agreement is really super user-friendly. If you want to see a copy of what the agreement actually looks like, if you notify me, just raise your hand or type in a note. I'll be glad to email you a copy of the paperwork for you to review. And so with that, and I appreciate those of you that raise your hands, we'll get that out to you. We'll go ahead and take questions. So I'll hit the mute button here for a second and see if any questions pop up. Okay, Greg, first question, easy one, I'll let you do this one. Is it possible to invest in this joint venture with IRA money?
Oh yes, absolutely. Just so you know, we try to keep the PowerPoint to a minimum because there's so many things we could go over. But yeah, we actually work with some of the top third-party administrators. That's the ones that handle your IRAs. We actually do joint webinars with them too. So absolutely, I would say about 70% of the sales that we do are qualified funds like an IRA.
Okay, that was an easy one. Okay, Greg, next question. Is there any risk of losing money on any transaction?
All right, well, there's always risk in everything you do in life. We try to minimize that. I think a better way to put that is, what is the worst case scenario? I joke about it, but, you got to be serious about it. The worst thing that can happen is I get hit by a Mack truck, okay? Or for whatever reason unknown, something happens to REO reseller. The bottom line is you're holding on. You're first on title, okay? You own it free and clear. We don't make any money until it's rehabbed and it's gone. So we're highly incented to do it. But again, the worst case scenario is you'd be sitting on a property for $37,500 that's worth anywhere from conservatively $50,000 to $60,000. That's pretty much the worst case.
Yeah, just to tag on to that too, this is the real estate business. This is, as Greg mentioned, you own the property. And so if, let's just say Greg doesn't hit that truck, God forbid something were to terribly to happen, and you'd be on your own. There are plenty of people in this market looking for homes and looking to broker homes. So identifying somebody to help you sell and to flip that property would be about as easy as getting on the internet and looking. Okay, let me get the next question, Greg. Okay, Greg, this is a, I'll let you answer this one. Who do you use as a custodian for IRA money to buy this?
Well, we work with several. It might be one that you already have. I mean, we continually work with a handful of them. But I mean, just last Thursday we had someone. They had an administrator, and it turns out that we did a transaction with them 2 years ago, and it all went smooth. As long as your administrator allows you to purchase real estate, because some don't. But if you need any help with that, I actually have it on staff, someone who would assist you in that process. I would never suggest doing it alone unless you totally know what you're doing, because it's very easy. If you don't dot every I and cross every T, they'll constantly reject the paperwork and whatever. So yeah, if you have one, just contact one of us, and we can figure out how to help you from there. Hey Charlie, I want to mention something. We lost a slide, so I just want to go over it. I want to make sure people understand. This is just as if you're buying a home across the street. You never send us any money. It gets escrowed with Fernley and McDonald. They're one of the most reputable title and escrow firms in the Southeast. They're one of only 3 that do that are allowed to do FDIC liquidations. That's when the actual bank is liquidating. FDIC insurance, homes, and obviously Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, and all those. So I just wanted to make that clear. So it's title and escrow, just as if you were buying the house next door.
Okay, I think that's all the questions we have. I want to thank everybody for being on here. We're leaving our contact information up there. If you want to contact myself or Greg, just give us a shout. I always leave at least an hour or two to be available after these webinars to take calls and questions. So if you have other questions you'd like to ask, feel free to give me or Greg a call. And I want to thank everybody for being on here today. Greg, thanks so much. I'll talk to you in an hour or so.
Thank you. Thanks for everyone taking out the time. Really appreciate it.